Market update on the 16th. I'm going to go over QQQ and SPY here first. So QQQ, I still think we're in a fourth wave. I think that the fifth wave likely finished here. If we zoom in here, I still think we're going to 420. It actually went as planned here. We got that move down in the morning, and then we got to move higher. And I think either way, even if we come back down here and break this low, as long as 404.23 holds, I'm looking for this to play out basically like this up to like 420. That would end up being the overall B wave. So right here about 420 be the B wave, WXY, up here to 420, and then I'm looking for that move down here to minimum 391, but probably we're going to end up getting something like this based on SPY. It's probably going to end up being something like this and go much lower. I don't know how much lower, but that's my thoughts on it right now. I think we got about another week or two of upside, and then we're going to start selling off pretty hard over the next couple of months. So this chart's different than the S&P. I think that this is an impulse move, or starting from the bottom, it's an impulse move. And just based on the structure of it. But then we look at SPY. Let's zoom out here on SPY. And you can see here that this didn't get to the 1.61 fib, and then this came back into what would have been the first wave. So I consider this potentially a B wave right here. And if that's the case, I'm looking for a move that can potentially go all the way up to 493. It doesn't have to go up there though. And so if we're in the exact same spot as QQQ, then I'm looking for this to be more than likely a second wave, and we're looking for a move that could take it all the way up to 493. I'm not really sure if it's going to go all the way up to 493 because that's another $20 compared to QQQ only has about $10 left. That's only about 2.5%. This has about 4 or 5%. So the only way that's going to happen is if like some other stocks besides tech pump really hard, and then tech doesn't pump as hard, which is possible with Microsoft and Nvidia already pumping to the max. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we're going to get into early February. So I can show you this lasted from the bottom. I know I got a lot of markings on here, so it's pretty messy, but October 13th to July 26th, that's about 9 months and 13 days. We're currently coming up on about 6 months of this move on the 27th, and then I'm expecting the move down to take about 3 months. So that's going to take us into early May, and then that could be the overall B wave wherever it ends up. Let's say it goes to like mid-May, and then we get a big pump for a C wave. And on QQQ, that's going to look like this. So same thing, except for this is more than likely 5 waves. On SPY, this just means this is a B wave, and that means later after we pump this high, we fall off a cliff. So the whole thing would look like that. That's just what I see. There are different spots overall. If we zoom out here on the monthly chart, this is pretty easy to see. So the reason that I think that we're in a B wave on the S&P is because you look at the second wave, it lasted about 9 years. If this was just the fourth wave, it only lasted a year. So I think that just based on the time length of this, we could be pumping all the way into about February of 2025 for this B wave. And then you're looking at about 3.5 years, and you're looking for about a year and a half after that to come down here for the C wave. And then you're looking for a big pump going into like late 2020s, maybe all the way into like 2030 and that such. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the S&P. On QQQ. This is probably already finished the fourth wave, and that's why we're in an impulse move. So I'm not sure what will happen after we get the fifth wave on here. Maybe that ends up being the first wave of a fifth wave. Because if SPY is going to come back down here for a fourth wave, maybe we get something like this over into 2030. So that's my thoughts on QQQ and SPY. I think we got about 2 more weeks of pump left. So that means Tesla going into earnings. We finally recovered here at the end of the day, or not the end of the day, in the morning. And there's so many different possibilities on Tesla. Again, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. This is about $35 less than this. This is the X wave. So I'm expecting about $35 less than this. That's about 160. So 160 to 185 is kind of my target. And that's all going to be in monthly demand. So if we're looking for 185, this could be the A wave. But there's also a possibility. There's a possibility that this lasts a lot longer. I kind of go back and forth on this. I don't know. It could be 5 waves. It could end up being WXY, and it could even be something like this. Where we just kind of bounce into earnings right here. Maybe into like 230 or so. And then come down here to like 185 after earnings, and then get a big bounce. And then after that bounce, sell off hard to 170. So I'm not really bullish on Tesla yet. We did have a nice bounce this morning. And I got rid of most of my hedges down here. Just going by the fact that, okay, if it goes to 204, I'm going to lose out on some of the delta. But at this point, I think that this is a bottom. You can see on the 30-minute chart, we got a hammer candle here. That's a pretty good indication that we got a huge bounce. So I'm looking for either an ABC move up here to 230, 231. And I think that that should happen here in the next couple of days. And with earnings coming up and the market probably going higher into early February, that means I'm probably looking for something like this. So 231, we could be looking at 240 into earnings. That's not that big of a stretch. It'd be about a 10% move into earnings. And that would take us to about potentially 243, but probably right here, 240. And then if that were to happen, I would expect a sell-off. So let's see, 265, 240. You're probably looking at something around 185. So A, B, 185. And then maybe we bounce for a couple of weeks. Or maybe longer than that, I'm not sure. But anyway, you see what I'm saying? It doesn't really matter on small time frames. I don't know which pattern is going to play out. There's a bunch. But I'm looking for 185 minimum all the way down to 160. So on the smaller time frames, today's bounce looks really good though. Apple. So with that being said, what do you think the most likely scenario for Apple is? If the market's going to dip into May, this took July 19th to August 17th, 1 month. The B wave took about 4 months. So that's 5 months right there. So we're looking at about 2.5 months down. Takes us to March. So maybe the sell-off will be a lot quicker than into May. Maybe it will just be a quick, huge move down in February, all the way into like mid-March. But overall, just based on this structure, you've got to imagine if the market's going to dip, that Apple's probably going to come back up here and fill this gap at 191 into earnings. And then you're going to see a sell-off down here to 169, bounce, and probably hit 157. And then we can zoom out here, and I actually have Apple from the very bottom all drawn up, going back to the very beginning. 1, 2, third waves right here. You can see pretty clearly. And then currently we are in 1, 2, 3. Our 3's up there. We're in a fourth wave. So 3's right here. We are in a fourth wave. So this second wave took maybe it's ended right here. Let me see. No, ended right here. Okay, so it took about 15 months. This fourth wave is probably going to end up taking about, I don't know, like 9 months maybe, something like that. So 9 months on this fourth wave, and then you're looking at the same thing as QQQ, a big move higher. So Apple is going to make this move over the next couple of months. And then you're going to see 5 waves up. And then that will complete the cycle, I think. And it's also possible that we get extensions, obviously, if QQQ keeps on extending. So that is Apple. What else we got here? Let's go over Coin. So Coin, nice bounce today. And I think it's on the same trajectory as basically Tesla. So we get this move down, which I think is probably an ABC move. It's kind of sketchy on that area. Like, I don't know if it's a 5-way move or an ABC move, but right now, if it is a 5-way move, we'll know pretty quickly. If we get a corrective move down or up here, I'll be shorting either way. If this is a fourth wave, we got to see an impulse move out of here. So if we don't get an impulse move out of here, which I don't think we're going to at this point, just based on the overall market, unless it's quick, we're looking at just a bounce on Coin. So this might be invalidated pretty quickly. There's a chance that we are looking at an ABC move here. Let me zoom out here. And if that's the case, then this might be an impulse move down. But either way, it doesn't matter. I'm looking for a bounce on this move. Let's say this is a wave 1. Then we're looking at a bounce all the way up here to 153 minimum. Potentially all the way up here to 175. But short term, on smaller time frames, you can see here we got an impulse move higher, and we're doing a corrective move down. So I'm looking for at least like 142, 144 right into the supply zone, and that's probably not going to be it. This took about 20 days. So this pretty much goes right into what I'm saying, early February. So I think this bounce on Coin should last all the way into like February 5th. So you're probably looking at something like this actually. This makes the most sense to me. And then let's do projection here. So you're looking at 142.63. And then you're looking at, let's say it pulls back early tomorrow. you're looking for a pullback here to 141.78, and then you're looking for something around like 150 or so. So then we get 150, let's say that takes 3 or 4 days and we get a pullback. You're probably looking at one more pump after that to potentially 172. That's right where this demand zone's at. So maybe we get something a little bit higher than this up here to get to this gap fill. Based on the overall market, I would say that this is more than likely at this point, even though we haven't invalidated the move, it's probably either an A wave or a first wave down. If it's a first wave down, then this is going to go probably to new lows. Could be ABC though too. ABC makes a lot of sense too, so let's just say ABC, you're looking for eventually something down here to at least $100. So, and monthly demand is right here. So probably something down here in the monthly demand area overall if it invalidates this move, which I think it's going to. But short term, 150 to 170 is kind of my target. So not really that much to worry about. And then Mara, I would imagine that Mara is going to end up bouncing too. I think it's probably done on the down move. And so I'm looking for, again, 20 days up into early February. There is a supply zone right here. That's probably where I'd aim for. Anywhere between 22.26 to 23.62 is my target, most likely. And, well, there's one up here too, I guess. Maybe 25.19 to 25.72. Either way, I would be looking for this to be more than likely something like that, where it can go all the way down to 11.73. So I think Mara is probably going to sell off a lot more, but we'll see. If it ends up making 5 waves down here to 15.68, or if it goes to 15.68 tomorrow or the next day, and I'm wrong, then you're looking at 5 waves potentially. You're looking at something like this. Potentially like that, and then pull back, and you might even see something down here to the single digits. So I'm hopefully looking for a pullback here on Mara. With the overall market probably bouncing, you're probably looking at something up in the 20-25 area by early February. IWM though, looks to me like IWM is potentially coming down here to this demand zone at 187. And if that happens, then we might see a little bit lower on these growth stocks, or it might bounce up here to 3-hour demand. Either way, I think that this is probably going to be a deep 4th wave. I think this is a 4th wave. So 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe more than that. And then a 5th wave up higher. Can potentially go all the way up here to 231. But I'm trying to think, it doesn't really make that much sense if the market's going to sell up pretty hard. Maybe this is already 5 waves. So I hit my target from earlier at 200. It's a tough one, but I'm expecting a little bit higher into February. You're probably looking back up here into the demand zone at 198, and then it's going to come down here lower. Maybe ends up being a 2nd wave. I have to chart this one later because originally the move was just this. A, B, C like that. So I guess there's a possibility that this is already done and it comes down way lower, but remains to be seen. I'm just going to watch these demand zones. We have 198, 187. Over the next couple weeks, though, I am bullish. So if it comes down here to 187, it's a buy. If it starts squiggling back and forth, chopping up to here, it's probably a sell going into February. And then the dollar, I just expect this to be doing something like this over the next couple of months. ABC up here for a second wave, and then we're going to get the 345 down here. And I think that's pretty much it. NVIDIA can hit 585, I think, going into earnings. And that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you have any tickers you want me to look at? Hopefully SoFi bounces into earnings. I hope it doesn't get, I really, really hope that this does not get held down here. It's incredibly annoying that this sells off like this and then it doesn't have any bounce. It doesn't move like a normal stock. It needs to be bouncing, but they just pin it down and then you're sitting there like, okay, I want to hedge, but I also don't want to hedge at the very bottom, but I almost have to hedge at the very bottom. So that's the dilemma you're going to get with this stock. But ideally, it should be bouncing to at least like 840 supply zone right here, potentially 950. I don't see why this wouldn't run hard into earnings. The most anticipated earnings ever. We're about to be profitable. So it should be running hard into earnings. There's no reason for it to stay down if the market goes higher. But this is the most manipulated stock in the whole entire market. So we'll see how they manipulate it into earnings. It's probably going to be, I'm expecting it to be complete BS again. But if we're lucky, we'll hit 850, potentially up here to 950. But again, with the overall market, what I expect it to do, we're probably going down here to between $6 and $7 and maybe even lower than that. So that is pretty much it. Leave me a comment, like, subscribe for more updates, and I will catch you in the next video.